Thank you so much, Peggy. Before we begin the Ethical Practices Board meeting today, we will be administering the oath of office for Walter Bach and Clinton Collins, board members. Please raise your right hand. Do you each, Walter Bach and Clinton Collins Jr., solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Minnesota, and the charter and ordinances of the city of Minneapolis, and you will perform the duties of the office for the term to which you have been appointed to the best of your ability?
I do.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on your appointment.
Thank you.
Is the committee clerk ready to begin?
I am.
Please.
I think, Kyle, you have something to read the info about that we're holding this meeting remotely due to the pandemic. Do you have the script?
I do. Yep. Sorry. I can. Yes, I can begin that way. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting of the Ethical Practices Board for January 19th, 2021. My name is Kyle Kroll, and I am the vice chair of the board. Before we begin, I'd like to note that this meeting includes the remote participation of members as authorized in Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021 due to the declared local health pandemic. I will now call this meeting to order and ask the clerk to call the roll so that we may verify the presence of a quorum.
Board Member Collins?
Present.
Bach?
Present.
Vice Chair Kroll?
Present.
There are 3 members present.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that we have a quorum. And before we begin today, I would like to formally welcome Clinton Collins to the board. Mr. Collins was just sworn in along with Mr. Bach in his first term on this board, and we are very pleased to have him join us and welcome.
Thank you.
Also welcome back to Mr. Bach, who's returning for another term, and we remain a fully staffed board now as we enter 2021. So again, welcome. And with that, we will proceed to our agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's Legislative Information Management System, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. The first item is adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins?
Yay.
Bach?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kroll?
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion carries and the agenda is adopted. And the third item then is acceptance of the minutes from the November 17th, 2020 meeting. Our first item of business is acceptance of the minutes from that meeting, November 17th, 2020. May I have a motion to accept those minutes?
I will so move.
Motion by member Bach, second.
Second.
Second by member Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins?
Aye.
Bach?
Aye.
Vice Chair Kroll?
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
Thank you. That motion carries and the minutes are accepted. The next item is election of chair and vice chair. I'll open the floor to nominations for the position of chair and vice chair.
This is Walter Bach. I will move that Mr. Kroll be nominated as chair for this year.
And I would accept that nomination. Oh, well, thank you very much. It's been seconded by Member Collins, and I accept that nomination. Do we have a motion by any member to elect a vice chair?
Yes, we do. I move that we select Mr. Balk as vice chair.
And Mr. Bach, if you're interested in that position, I'd be happy to second it.
I am interested in becoming vice chair this year. Thank you.
Wonderful. Then I second it. Are there any further nominations? If not, then I will now close the floor to nominations. And I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the nomination of Member Kroll as chair, and why don't we do it together? Member Bauk as vice chair. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Bauk,
Aye.
Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and Member Kroll, myself, has been elected chair, and Member Bauk as vice chair. Wonderful. So moving on then to the next item. We have one item under unfinished business. This is ethics complaint number 2020-28. The unfinished business is a motion to dismiss. Ms. Trammell?
Thank you, Chair Kroll. Susan Trammell, Ethics Officer. I'm requesting that this matter before the board be dismissed, as the matter is now moot, and there would be of no benefit to continue forward with any proceedings on the matter. The parties are no longer employees of the city.
Okay. Do we have a motion to dismiss ethics complaint number 2020-28?
This is Vice Chair Bauk. I will move that ethics complaint 2020-28 be dismissed.
And
Second.
I will second.
Well,
Well,
okay.
I guess we'll both second. I'll go ahead and second that one for this one. Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bauk,
Aye.
Chair Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion then carries, and ethics complaint number 2020-28 is dismissed. All right. We are now on to new business. The next item is annual consideration of amendments to bylaws and the rules of procedure. Ms. Trammell?
Thank you, Chair Kroll. Staff have not proposed any changes to the board's bylaws and rules of procedure for your consideration. The bylaws and rules of procedure were sent to the board members prior to today's meeting for review. No proposed changes have been presented by any board member to staff. And I want to note that the approval of the bylaws and rules of procedures was made last July, so they were reviewed as recently as July. And so that doesn't surprise me that there haven't been proposed changes. And given the anticipated ordinance revision work that will proceed this year, there may be a need to amend the bylaws and rules of procedure upon an amendment of the code. But at this time, staff recommends no amendments.
Thank you, Ms. Trammell. Any questions or discussion from members? I'll just say that as we'll discuss a little bit later, there is the work plan that includes this, so that makes a lot of sense. And unless anyone has any further discussion or objection, hearing none, I'll direct the clerk then to receive and file the verbal report of Ms. Trammell. And since we don't have any motions for any proposed amendments, then I believe we can now move on to the next item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is approving the 2021 work plan. Ms. Trammell?
Thank you, Chair Kroll. This board reviewed a proposed 2021 work plan at its meeting in November, and there's really been only one change to that document since you reviewed it in December. That is to add the comprehensive review and analysis of the entire ethics code and the potential for presenting amendments to that code to council, and the required then review of the bylaws that would be needed. And so this actual proposed 2021 work plan, as you see it here today, is what is included in the 2020 annual report, which is also on your agenda today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Trammell. Is there any discussion or questions from members? Well, I'm not hearing anything. I'll just add that I think this is a great work plan. I think it's an ambitious work plan, and I hope we'll be able to accomplish everything on it. And we're grateful for the help I know of Mr. Wilcox, who will be working on a couple of these items as well. So unless anyone has any further comments or discussion or questions, let's move to a motion to approve this work plan for this upcoming year. Do I have any such motion?
This is Vice Chair Valk. I'll make that motion to approve the 2020 work plan.
All right, a motion from Member Bauk. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from Member Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bauk,
Aye.
Chair Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion then carries, and the 2021 work plan is now approved. Turning then to the next item on our agenda, the 2020 annual report. Ms. Trammell?
Thank you, Chair Collins. The 2020 annual report was sent to you and is attached to the agenda. And there are a few, of course, the changes that have been made include updates to all the numbers. I know that this board was very interested in the percentage of ethics training that was completed, but those numbers are still not as high as the board would like to see. I will share with you one snippet that I heard from a department who was extremely concerned because they had 99% compliance when they checked. But when the report was run, apparently later that same day, they had fallen to 93%. So they've insisted that the results are wrong. Now, the problem is that a lot of times people are taking their ethics education in December because their department's insisting that they get it done before this report is run. So it could very well have been that these people fell out of compliance because they had taken it on the last day of the year last year, or 3 years ago when they were supposed to take it. So the numbers are accurate, but particularly because so many people take them in November, I have a feeling that a lot of the people who were in compliance when the final notices went out to departments to, hey, check your ethics education status, that they then dropped off after the check, and people did not look forward to see who would drop off later in December. And so I think that's one of the issues. And so one thing I will try to do this next year is to encourage departments to get ahead of this in the summer and get their people through the cycle earlier in the year so that there's not this end of the year rush. With that being said, on the numbers for ethics ed, there are 2 changes that I made to the report, 2 things that I felt that the board would be interested in stressing. One is the required refresher training that's on a 3-year education cycle, and we want to provide fresh materials each time that an employee takes the refresher training. And so this year it is included that the 3rd generation of electronic refresher training is due January 1st of 2022. And it's also noted in the report that we've been informed that the HR budget does not have the budget to develop such a training program in 2021 and have postponed this development until 2022. I included then a statement that the board believes such postponement fails to reflect the ethical values of our city as adopted by City Council through the Ethics Code's aspirational provisions, and urges the City Council to direct human resources to re-examine its training funding priorities. So that's one change that was added. The other change that was added to the ethics education section is the in-person new employee orientations, and makes note of how we have always conducted those in person. And then prior to COVID-19, we were informed by Human Resources that they were going to drop the in-person training, including a remote meeting option, and that was discontinued beginning in May of 2020. Now, of course, COVID has played into some of this, as there are no in-person meetings right now. But I added a statement that the Ethical Practices Board strongly believes it is important for those new to the city or assuming new responsibilities to have more intensive training as well as an ethics discourse opportunity, and disagrees with the Human Resources Department's decision. The board will be seeking amendments to the Ethics Education Ordinance to ensure in-person education remains a city priority. And so this is just foreshadowing some of the work that we will be doing this summer on the ethics code itself and the anticipated proposed changes that will be presented to council in the fall. To that end, the other information in ethics inquiries and ethics complaints has just been updated to reflect current data. And then the last main change that I made to the document was in the amendment section. This is a section where the board has historically proposed amendments to the code, but instead this time I have included the phrasing that the board is not proposing any amendments to the ethics code at this time, that this code has been in effect for nearly 20 years. The board is of the opinion that a comprehensive review of the ethics code and a comparative analysis of other ethics codes is needed. The review and analysis is included on the 2021 work plan, and the board anticipates staff will bring forward proposed ordinance changes later in the year when the review and analysis is completed. So other than that, the annual report reads as pretty much the 2019 annual report read, and is what the board had reviewed for format purposes at the November meeting. And I could stand for questions at this time. Oh, I should say that I would be asking, sorry. I would be asking you to receive and file this report, and a direction to staff to bring it forward to City Council and publish it on the Ethical Practices Board website.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Trammell. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this draft?
The only comment I have is to thank Ms. Trammell for all of her hard work, and Mr. Wilcox as well for all their hard work on this, putting the annual report together.
Thank you, Vice Chair Bach, and I echo that as well. I do have a quick question on the change that you had noted, Ms. Trammell, to the venue, I suppose, in which ethics training is provided to new employees, and I wanted to make sure I had it correct. I think I know the answer, but that they're not being done in person, but they're being done through like a web module. Is that right?
Chair Kroll, members of the committee, the new employees no longer have a special new employee orientation class that they take. That was a class that wasn't previously an hour and a half long that I presented, and or some members of my staff would present, and we would go through an extensive review of the ethics code provisions that employees encounter the most often and provide the greatest number of inquiries for me. That training has just been abandoned by the HR department, and the employees are now instructed to take the refresher training. So the cycle of the refresher training is of even more importance to get a refreshed course because all the new employees have taken it as well. So they're just directing people to the refresher course, which is online. You are correct.
Okay. How, just kind of a follow-up question on that then is the refresher course. I apologize if I missed this detail that you already provided when you were speaking about it, but how long is that compared to the prior new employee ethics orientation course?
It is about a 25-minute course.
Okay. Does it cover the same topics, or does it are there some that are missed, that are not covered? And how would you put it in your words?
In Chair Coral, in my words, I would say it covers the same areas, but it doesn't go into them in as depth of a way, as we don't have as much time to spend on each area.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions or? I'll just say too, you know, the ethics education rates is something that I know we have it at the top of the work plan, very important. And although we showed a small decline, it's around the same 70, high 70s figure, which ideally we'd like to get up to hopefully 100%. And so I'm looking forward to working on that with everyone this year. One thing I noted on the trends is that the questions about gifts went down dramatically this year. And I was wondering, Ms. Trammell, if you had any insight as to why it was. I mean, we've historically had pretty high gift questions, and it's such a big drop. I mean, it's good to see drops, but.
Chair Kroll, my sense is that there were less opportunities for people to have questions about receiving gifts because so many people are working from home. So they're not encountering the situations that they were before. I think that some of this year's inquiries were skewed by the very large number of inquiries about how to file complaints that came in over late spring and summer. There was a steady stream, and you see that complaint process, that category, for the first time ever was in the top 3, and it's the #1 category this year. And that's solely because of all the inquiries that came in from people, generally non-employees actually, who wanted to have me take certain actions that they felt I could just do. And I would respond with, you know, this is what the ethics board does. This is where you file. If you want ordinance changes, there are certain actions by city council or the charter commission. This is where you file those. And here's what is required for an ethics complaint, and the jurisdictional requirements and the evidence requirements and all of that would be outlined to them in a response. This year, there were a tremendous number of those. And I just think that the situations were just different this year. No different than in years in which the city has a citywide election. A lot of times those years are higher political activity years. We get spikes in questions about political activity. Some of that's been taken care of by the training video that we produced in that area. But, you know, people do have those questions in those years. I noted that when we were in the recession, 2009, 10, and 11, I think, there were a higher number of inquiries related to outside employment because people were thinking about getting a part-time job because they were worried about losing this job and that would be a buffer for them. So those kinds of things, what's happening in the world usually dictates what kind of inquiries that we get. But you're right, usually this is the first time that gifts has been so low. It's usually a guaranteed number 1 or 2 topic, and it wasn't this year.
Thank you for the explanation. It's really helpful. I guess I kind of saw as well that towards the bottom of the chart that you have on page 8 of the draft, it does say related policies, solicitation of gifts to the city, gifts between employees and charitable organizations. That correspondingly went up.
Well, it did, and it's combined, and it's separate on the pie chart on the page before. So if you look at the pie chart, you can see that they're broken out there.
Okay. And so the solicitation of gifts was something that was brought to the fore more. Does that have a connection, you think, to people being more remote or particular circumstances this year?
Yes, it has to do with the city's budget, and departments are trying to come up with creative ways to fund their work.
Oh, okay.
And also there were various, the solicitation of gifts to the city also includes how a gift to the city gets accepted. And there were a number of gifts that were proposed to the city that have gone through council. You know, you must go through city council vote, 2/3 vote, and a resolution to accept a gift. So those questions fall under that policy as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Well, again, we thank you, Ms. Trammell, for your work in putting this together, and Mr. Wilcox. And so I'll now ask for a motion to approve the 2020 Ethical Practices Board Annual Report and direct that it be published, and that the ethics officer have the authority to make any necessary typographical corrections to the report as necessary.
This is Vice Chair Balk. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair Bach, and we have a second by Member Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Balk,
Aye.
Chair Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion then carries, and the 2020 annual report is approved. We will now go on to items 9 and 10. These relate to preliminary consideration of allegations of violations of the ethics code by individuals subject to the authority of the board. Ms. Trammell will provide the board with a statement relating to the need to close the meeting to discuss the allegations. Ms. Trammell.
Thank you, Chair Kroll. The next items on today's agenda relate to preliminary consideration of allegations of violations of the ethics code by individuals subject to the authority of this board. The Minnesota Open Meeting Law requires the closure of a meeting for preliminary consideration of such charges against an individual subject to the board's authority. Today, we have 2 complaints pending review, one pursuant to a probable cause determination and one pursuant to Rule 7.6. Upon a conclusion that discipline may be warranted, any subsequent meetings to discuss these complaints must remain open.
Thank you, Ms. Trammell. I will entertain a motion to close the meeting as required by Minnesota Statute Section 13D.05 Subdivision 2B to conduct the hearings on ethics complaint 2020-42 and ethics complaint 2021-4. May I have a motion to close the meeting?
This is Vice Chair Balk, so moved.
Motion by Vice Chair Bao. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second by Member Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bach,
Aye.
Chair Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion thus carries and the meeting is now closed. Do we need to,
We do.
Exit,
We
yes,
need to
exit.
all exit this meeting and click on the closed invite. And Mr. Collins, did you get the closed invite?
I don't think so. What does it look like?
I sent that out this morning. It should be an Outlook invite, a calendar invite.
Okay, I'm checking my emails right now.
It'll start out with 011921. Ethical Practices Board, and then it'll say closed meeting in parens.
Okay, would it have gone straight to my calendar or would it?
It may have.
Okay, let's see, because I'm looking at the calendar right now.
I have it set for 3:15, even though it's obviously later, but
Okay,
just to
I
differentiate
see
it.
something at, what time is it now? I'm looking at the calendar. Okay, let's see. There's a link here. It says invite.ics 6 kilobytes. I don't know if, I think that might have been the link for the meeting itself we're in right now. I don't see it, but then I may not, it may be staring me in the face and I just don't know what I'm looking for. But when I look at my emails from today, I see an email that I received from you at 1 o'clock, well, 1:09 to be exact, about the annual report. And then the emails that we exchanged right at a little after 3 to get me into the meeting. What was the number you said? It was 011921.
Yes, and I'm
Okay.
just forwarding one to you right now.
Okay, I see that. So if I hit invite, what will happen?
You mean if you click on the invitation?
Yeah, hold on a second, because I was looking at my iPad, and now I'm going to the. Okay, just a second here. I just received an email.
It should be from Peggy Menchek, hopefully.
Yes, I did.
in the body of the email will have a Microsoft Teams meeting link. It says join on your computer or mobile app.
Okay, I am.
Yeah, Board Member Collins, if it says, it should say click here to join the meeting in blue and it's underlined.
Okay, I received a link and it's forwarded to me, but I don't see the link. What I see is an email, and then it says, please respond. This appointment conflicts with another one on your calendar. But I'm looking for a link right now. And should I just hit accept?
Go ahead and hit accept and then look on your calendar.
Okay, I accepted it. And then I'm looking at the calendar right now. Okay, now I see on the calendar, Ethical Practices Board closed session.
Yeah, so now you're gonna want to, Peggy, remind us, we don't exit out of this, right? Or you keep it open and we do leave this meeting and join the other one?
Yes, we leave this meeting.
Yes.
We leave it and then we join the closed meeting.
Yeah, you
Okay,
guys can
so-
leave and then join the closed meeting.
Okay.
So then do I click on my calendar where it says, it has it on there on the calendar? Do I click on the calendar?
Yeah, and then it will have instructions in there for you to join the meeting.
Be sure you hit leave on this one as well.
Okay, click here to join the meeting. Okay.
Yeah.
But we have to leave this meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, why doesn't everybody else go to that meeting right now, the closed meeting? And I can
Okay.
remain here until Board Member Collins.
Committee clerk, are we ready to proceed?
Yes, the open session, the reopened session of the Ethical Practices Board can now begin.
Thank you. We are back in open session. Will the clerk please call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum?
Board Member Collins,
Present.
Vice Chair Bach,
Present.
Chair Kroll.
Present.
There are 3 members present.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is ethics complaint number 2020-42, probable cause determination. May I have a motion for ethics complaint 2020-42?
This is Vice Chair Balk. I move to find that probable cause exists to support the allegations contained within the complaint and authorize the ethics officer pursuant to bylaws and rules of procedure rule 8.3 to extend a preliminary recommendation regarding resolution within the direction given by the board. The matter does not resolve. A date shall be set on or before February 17th, 2021 for further proceedings on the complaint. And the ethics officer shall coordinate the setting of the date.
And may I make a friendly amendment to your motion, Vice Chair Bach?
Absolutely.
Are you amenable to adding to your motion that if the matter is resolved, the ethics officer shall present an order for dismissal to the chair for signature?
Yes, I would agree to that stated amendment be added to the motion.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion by Vice Chair Bach. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Member Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bach,
Aye.
Chair Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion passes. The next item on the agenda is ethics complaint number 2021-4. May I have a motion for ethics complaint 2021-4?
This is Vice Chair Balk. I'll make the motion and move to affirm the ethics officer's dismissal of said complaint pursuant to rules and bylaws of the Ethical Practices Board, section 7.6.
We have a motion by Vice Chair Bach. Do we have a second?
Second.
There's a second by Member Collins. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Collins,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bach,
Aye.
Chair Kroll.
Aye.
There are 3 ayes.
That motion passes. And the next items on the agenda are reports from Ms. Trammell. Ms. Trammell will provide a summary of these reports.
Thank you, Chair Kroll. The first report is the regular ethics inquiry report. And as one can see from this report, there were 42 inquiries with 43 categories since the November report was presented to the board. And again, they covered all areas of the ethics code. with this time outside employment being the #1 inquiry, followed by gifts and complaint process. People are still very interested in filing complaints. The inquiries are anonymized and attached in the Excel spreadsheet attached behind the actual report. And I can give you further information on any one of them if anyone on the board has one that they'd like to pull out. I have none that I felt the need to specifically identify. I would note that we had a slowdown in inquiries over the holidays and an uptick since the beginning of the year. The other report is the complaint status report. There have been 11 complaints with 22 allegations filed since the November meeting. 4 of those complaints were filed this year, and the remaining 7 were filed in November and December. The year end for 2020 is 54 for the total for the year of complaints, not allegations. Of those complaints, 12 are pending and 42 are closed. Now, that number is going to be different from what was reported in the board in November because other departments provide their data to me at the end of the year. And so while we're working on getting some of that data earlier in the year, right now it comes at the end of the year and I add those numbers in. So all of a sudden it looks like way more complaints at the end of the year than there were before. And then there's 2 still pending from 2019 and 1 open from 2018. And the reason that something could still be open that long is because it could be going through a grievance or an arbitration process is my best guess on that one. I can't actually remember why it's still open, but that's what we have. So 2 pending from 2019 and 1 pending still from 2018, in addition to the 12 that are carried over. On the other activity report, these are the things that we've been working on outside of the meeting and complaints and advice. The one thing that I wanted to touch base on is the proposed timeline for the ethics code rewrite. This is a tentative timeline at this point, but it takes into account the various ethics board meetings. And we will be back in March with some comparison data of our code with various current ordinances and statutes in Minnesota that will be applicable, along with codes from other governmental entities. Matt can talk more about the research that he's done if he wants to say a few words on that. And the only other thing to note is that on that timeline, we would come back to you probably in July with a near completed proposed ethics code rewrite, and it would go to council in September. So some of that, there's a lot of things going on in the city right now. I've heard that there's potentially 4 to 5 or more proposed charter amendments that may detract from some of the work we're intending to do here. Just want to forewarn you that if there's that many charter amendments coming through, there may be a need for legal services there. So that's what we've got. So I stand for any questions, and I would say that it's Matt who has researched legislative immunity and done some research on non-financial conflict of interest. So he can maybe speak to that briefly.
Thank you, Ms. Trammell, and members of the board. Quickly, as the ethics officer mentioned, we are taking a look at a number of additional cities. So Seattle, Denver, San Francisco, Portland, Atlanta, and Chicago are the 6 cities that we've identified to compare our code with. And at this point, we have reviewed not only the sanctions power, associated with each of those codes, but also the financial conflict of interest provisions as well. And at your next meeting, we will have a comparative chart in a nice table form for you to be able to review that data. The one thing that's already, been definitely stuck out to me is the fact that there's a wide range of what these cities do, right? Particularly when you look at the sanctions ability and the power to even sanction elected officials or appointed officials, and whether it's a fine, whether it's up to expulsion from the positions they hold, and or simply a censure type provision. So wide range here. The research is ongoing, and we'll have a more detailed document for you at your next meeting.
Wonderful. Thank you both. Do we have any discussion on or questions on the reports? Okay. And then just following up on that, the last second kind of latter half of what you were just talking about, the comparative analysis. I know we're getting close to the end here. I wonder if you might briefly kind of explain the process of choosing those other cities for this analysis, and whether, St. Paul was considered just pretty close. I don't know if they have an ethical practices board, but there's something akin to it.
So this is Susan here. I don't think St. Paul does have an ethics code, but I have recommended to Matt that he not include other cities from Minnesota that do have an ethics code. I'm aware of 2 that do, Duluth and Rochester, and both of them used our code as their basis. So we're trying to get some, other information to help guide us here, not someone who's just copied us already.
I see. Okay, thank you. Okay, well, without objection, I will direct the clerk to receive and file the reports. And with that, we have completed all items on the agenda for this meeting.
Excuse me, Chair Kroll?
Yes, any other matters?
Yes, there is. I'm
Okay.
reminded because we passed the annual report today. And so I want to remind each of you that because we're not meeting in person, I don't have that sheet of paper to hand out to everyone to ask you to record the time that you have spent, both for attending this meeting and in preparation for this meeting. So if you would each please email me the amount of time that you've spent preparing for the meeting and attending today's meeting, I would be much appreciative so that I can have accurate numbers for next year's report.
All right. Okay, is there anything else? Any other matter? Well, again, we welcome you, Clinton, to the board, and looking forward to collaborating with you, and hope you had a great first meeting. And without objection, I will declare this meeting adjourned. Our next meeting will be March 16th, 2021.
Thank you, Chair Kroll.
Take care.
Welcome aboard, Clinton.
Thank you.
And thank you, Peggy and Jackie.
Yes,
And
thank
Ted.
you very much.
Everybody.
Take care.
All right.
All right, goodbye.
Bye-bye.